about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Spending time all alone, sending my songs through the phone, dreaming of a better home. We want focused on trying to hone this craft, witchcraft. I hope the Bluez let this last. I don't know.
That was the great sounds of Watson with Outside on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, Easy Bluez is in the building. Easy Bluez, you're better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us today on the first episode of the new year for Behind the Brand?
First and foremost, Happy New Year. But on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you on a little bit of a journey. I want to take you on a journey that at one point in time criminalized a plant. A plant! Something that grows in a garden, comes from the ground, given by God. They said, nope, this is bad. And one of the most incredible things going on right now is we are actually watching the prohibition roll back in real time. State by state by state, people are coming to their senses, realizing that the answer isn't in the White House, it's in the greenhouse. And we love it for that. And our guest right now actually hosts a show that follows our show. What? How about that? On this very station, gives you all the information necessary for this beautiful, wonderful, fantastical plant and all the things that can benefit from there. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together, not if you're driving. If you're driving, you keep those hands at 10 and 2 because we don't want any accidents. Put your hands together for the host of Cannabis Corner. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Joe, Louis, how are you?
Oh man, that was an introduction, all right.
I've never had an intro like that, brother.
That's awesome.
Pay for it.
You know, thank you so much for inviting us. We really appreciate you guys taking the time and inviting us on your show, man. It's awesome where we can start spreading some information. Cannabis has been legal in this state for now 8 months. So we're very excited about that. And then as of October, we started with medicinal home grow rights. So our state is moving forward. In another couple months, we'll be moving into that full-blown adult recreational home grow right. So freeing the plant, spreading the information, talking about things. So having us on to talk today, we really appreciate being able to cross-sector within the family of the New Haven Independent. So big shout out to all of them. And Joe, brother, man, what? I'm so happy. Joe invited me on, gave me the call, and I was like, man, thank you so much to Easy and Prestige, man.
Yeah, no, this was great. I'm glad we came up with this little idea. Yeah. Preston and I go way back, way back, Prestige, way back at the beginning. And so it was actually a pleasure to actually be on his show, you know, because he's always had the show. He was with Joe Ugly, you know, and this is now your own thing, your brand. And I'm very happy to see you because I was there at the beginning. We could be real, you know. Absolutely. And it's nice to see that. It really, really is. Every time I see somebody who, you know, went through the school, was a student of mine, somebody who I actually, you know, got to know there as a student, do well, do their own thing. And it warms my heart. So thank you, Preston. Thank you for having us on. It's always been, I've always thought that was kind of cool that you were on before us, like, you know what I mean? Like we had shows one right after another. So I'm glad we were able to hook this up, link it together. And yes, Lou is absolutely right. Cannabis Corner, you were mentioning that you've been on the air for 3 years. We're celebrating our 4th year this year in March. Yeah. So Cannabis Corner has been plugging along with WNHH, and we want to thank them for giving us this platform, all of us here, right? To express our views, to be able to spread the word of cannabis, and you guys spreading the word of branding and stuff like that. I love it. I love it. I think this is great. Hopefully, maybe we could do this more often. Maybe you can do some more cannabis brands on your show, right? It's about branding.
Oh,
right?
we're totally down. I am totally down. I am a fan. I'm a big fan. Also, Joe, I'd like to apologize. Apparently, we didn't send you out the memo as well. You're not wearing the hoodie and the Scully, but it's okay. We'll get there. I promise.
Well,
let's give Joe's too.
Joe's in Puerto Rico.
No, I can't wear a Scully. It's too hot, bro.
We're in Puerto Rico? Oh, okay. Well, thank you for calling from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I'm going to start getting involved in some stuff here, too. So, nice. Lou and I are embarking on some new ventures that are expanding upon the Cannabis Corner brand. Cool things are happening.
Yeah, we're really excited about joining you guys on your show today because we get to talk a little bit about our passion and then actually get to ask you guys some questions about what you guys would think in, I guess, cross-sectoring two industries. One long established in the viable MedMen world of branding, marketing, and that entire idea where, I'll just use an example, Easy Bluez. You literally have on your hand branding. It's recognizable. It's not a question. I know you're down with the wars. I know you know what I mean? Like, it's branding. And that that cross sector into cannabis is huge. We're seeing it with brands like Cookies. We're seeing it through the stores, through Zoomies. We're seeing skateboard brands transition into where they were taboo and understood that they were counterculture and they were part of cannabis, but like to go into things like straight up rolling trays that look like skateboards, you know, and it's a rolling tray from a skateboard brand, so cannabis is kind of doing the same things. And it's because I take the old adage that cannabis is agriculture at all points of ways. So we do strains. That's actually a cultivar. So think if you got a begonia or a succulent or a cacti or something like that, you would buy into their name, their branding from like Bonnie or wherever. And then you start following that plant, succulent plants. People love their plants. Now you start going into cannabis and you're like, wait a second, we're going to brand this and there's going to be 100,000 different types and there's going to be sub-markets for each and every one of those. Oh, okay. What are we looking to do? Marketing big parts? Okay, cool.
Right.
We do media in our sector, in Cannabis Corner, which we're expanding, in all honesty. We're taking this time and this new year and the reset button that COVID provided us, in all honesty, and we're taking Cannabis Corner and we're rebranding and building out of it the Green Haven Media Group. So content creators such as ourselves and other like-minded individuals like you guys who want to maybe cross into that cannabis space where we do a 20-minute conversation. You come on, you produce your own thing, you shoot us that information, and it just becomes a hub to share information. You know what I mean? So now if you want a cannabis-specific show once a week with one brand and just do a 30-minute talk about the brand type of thing, you produce it, you put it together, it takes nothing, boom, boom, and you're able to output it. And it's through the education that we got on this show. In all honesty, we attribute WNHH to a lot of it. I didn't go to CSB or any of those organizations like you guys did. So I'm coming at it as a completely different viewpoint. I'm just the weed guy. I'm, Joe LaChanch is the weed guy. I'm the cultivator, but Joe's built that brand, Joe the weed guy. You'll find it on radio all over the place here in Connecticut, at least. So we're really excited, and that's why I was personally super ecstatic to talk to you guys, because I would love to know some of your thoughts on cannabis branding, cannabis marketing. Like there's so many different ways people are going about it. Like, what are some of your thoughts coming from the industry?
Yeah,
actually,
it's your show. Interview us.
Pretty much, I want to save that for your show.
Okay.
There you go.
Respect. You know what I'm saying? Let's run this real between myself and Easy Bluez. But
Wait,
everything.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Easy.
Right. for the listener, we just gave you a spoiler. We're actually going to be on the Cannabis Corner right after here. So you want to stay listening for this entire hour, and then you have the 5-minute commercial break to hear about the sponsors and all those wonderful people that sponsor this show and this station. Then you want to tune back into Cannabis Corner because we will be continuing this conversation. So now that you all know and you're all super excited, and yes, it's kind of like Endgame and Infinity Wars. We get it, folks. Okay, let's continue with the conversation.
Now, Preston, you're going to be on the 130 segment, right?
I thought both of us was going to be on the 130 segment, but if you want to split it apart, that's okay with us.
No, both of you. Both of you are on the 130 segment.
Yes, we are.
So at 130, these guys will be coming in on the show. Yes. All right, let's roll with the interview, guys.
Okay. So first and foremost, you know, when you got involved in this type of aspect, because yeah, it's still a little bit of that outlaw culture. I'm a musician, big fan of the outlaw culture. But when you first started to get into that cultivation aspect, did you think that this time was going to happen where the street was getting flipped to the regular?
Lou?
Yeah, so I guess that's a personal question. So I'm a legacy operator, and I'm okay with saying that I was a legacy operator because I got arrested already, and I was convicted for growing marijuana. So back in the day, yeah, you know, I got a college degree. I did the whole thing. There was still my own passion. I used cannabis as my medicine, and it's one of those things that's absolutely crazy price point sometimes. Especially if you're looking for specialty things and craft items. But flipping from legacy to legal was a big part for me because I needed to make sure I could pay my taxes. I joke about it with everybody right now. And in that realm, Al Capone wasn't arrested for anything that he did criminally illegal. Al Capone, the only conviction he has is tax evasion. So if I already got hummed up for something and I sent my time, I'm not doing that shit again illegally. I learned my lesson. You know, some people learn their lesson. Some people do not. But I thought it would be fun if I served probation and actually do my community service at like a hemp farm. So my probation officer was like, wait a second. He was like, you're going to go work with weed. It is a legal job. It's 501(c)(3). It's tax roll. It's a location. Come on down. And then we started the own business and we did everything. At the end of it, we make jokes, but I was on Yahoo Finance and like Forbes and a couple of those other things a couple years back. As the cannabis, you know, cultivator in the legacy marketplace that moved over to hemp, and now using hemp as my leeway into full-scale cannabis. So legacy to legal, my way was, you know, home grows, turning apartments out, getting a license, doing hemp, branding, marketing in the legal hemp world, building out every infrastructure to move into the adult use space, connecting those people in the corporate world, because as much as we're legacy and we were growing, and sometimes you get an idea of the hobbit in a closet that doesn't do anything, doesn't leave their house, doesn't socialize, and you get the idea that the lazy stoner is about. We have business acumen. We went to business school. A lot of our friends that were in legal law school and medical school were smoking weed to get through the days. You know, cannabis was something that was used throughout everybody in the university system, in the work system, and in your social networks, in all honesty. And it's something that still to this day is super taboo. And it's taboo by people who smoke weed or do something even more horrible. You know, like, hey, we're going to go out after work on Friday, spend 6 hours drinking till we can't walk anymore. Then we're going to hop in our car and we'll drive home. So that idea doesn't really work for, oh, that's a horrible thing that I decided to go home, smoke weed in my basement while my kids are upstairs running around. I come upstairs hungry. And what my kids know is, hey, back in the day, I'd come up from my little man cave. Daddy's all happy. Everything's cool. My kids are running around. Hey, we're going to get some snacks. I'm like, snacks? I love you guys. We are getting snacks right now. Yes, we are. What do you want to order from every place, guys? And just start ordering food. Like it's I'm sitting there happy with my family. My ex-wife used to look at me, she's like, you are a trip. You'll just sit there with them for hours. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna go get drunk. That's not my thing. It's cool. I just wanna enjoy a smoke and chill with my kids, and we'll play Legos for 5 hours.
And Lou, I'm enjoying my time with you on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven, behind the brand, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Raised, Elm City made, EZ Bluez is in the building. Uncle Lou, I hope it didn't ruin your train of thought. Go right ahead.
Not at all, because we love making sure that WNHH gets its shout out each and every time. They're a wonderful home for us. And I guess it's fun having 2 radio stations on the same. Everybody is like, yo, we love the radio station, because we do. And I try to do it every week. Huge shout out to Harry the Brave.
Yes.
So going from legacy to legal was something that hopefully everybody jumps on. And, if you choose to go in the gray area for right now, do your thing. Just make sure. Remember, Al Capone got arrested for tax evasion. Just cover your butt. That's all.
Yeah.
No, as far as I'm concerned, I got started in this basically for the same. I had gotten arrested, and it motivated me to make a change. And I started in 2010 out in California as an activist when they had the first state to ever try to legalize. Unfortunately, it failed. But yes, to answer your question, I always knew that this day would come. Because if I didn't know in my heart that what I was doing was actually going to have a result, then I wouldn't have done it. It had to start with me knowing and believing in my heart that we could accomplish this mission of making cannabis legal. And just that little spark that I got in California motivated me to come out here and do it, And through my efforts working with the cannabis school up in Massachusetts, going through that whole process with them, because the school was very involved in the legalization efforts for Massachusetts. So I got my education up there, really hardcore, with some really good people who knew what they were doing as far as activism, saw that a successful campaign could work. That gave me even more fuel for the fire to get it done in Connecticut. So I'm not a grower. I'm more of a media guy. I'm more of an educator. I come from an education background. So this is right in my wheelhouse because it's media, and we do we educate the people at the same time. So for me, this is perfect. Cannabis Corner has been a perfect outlet to get the word out, because sometimes you can't always get up to the State House. Sometimes, there are certain things that we all played our role in this. And Lou, as a cultivator, had an active role in the hemp industry and in getting with the equity portion. Me, myself, I did a lot of behind the scenes emailing work to certain representatives that had influence. I did hearings, but Cannabis Corner, what I always felt was like the outlet where people could come and get their information about the industry. And so Lou and I are working on this new brand. So yeah, I did believe it from the start. I had that belief in my heart from the start that we see this day. And I made a commitment to see it through to the end. And I made it, even though I did move to Puerto Rico, I still participated. And because that was always a part of my plan anyway. So the pandemic just kind of sped it up for me, because basically.
And we encouraged it, Joe. We wanted to make sure you felt that you were appreciated, and that move was important for you as well. Because as we get older in life and as we go through a lot of battles, you deserve some of those things. And that's part of what you deserve, that, Joe. Moving out to the island, not dealing with the cold, not dealing with the winters. It's better for your health. You know what I mean? The island has been way better for your health than sitting here in some of this smog and in the areas and really dealing with that. To see this day legal is amazing, and we're really excited, man. We really are.
Joe, Lou, just with everything going on with, just with the branding of marijuana and cannabis. Has everything exceeded your expectations? And also, this is going to be a two-part question for you guys. Why is the fight not over?
That's a good one. So I would say, let's start with the fight is not over.
Right.
Because things have not met our expectations. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's definitely fair.
Continued advocacy and continued education are really important in this matter, because as the laws were implemented, they were not the final regulations. So now there are groups, like in any other industry, working to change the laws or add things or take things away. So where it didn't meet our expectation, where we could have gotten some better results, there was a compromise, and that happens. So where our expectations were just set, and then what we chose to do about it is the next part. So do we continue advocacy? Do we look into regulatory changes or education? Do we look into spreading more knowledge on how to run an actual business if people are just going to fall into line on what the rules are currently? So figure the status quo is just learning how to run a big business. Then you have one side where it's, okay, we need to change the laws. And then the other one is, okay, we need to work within the laws to do what we want to do. So 3 different mindsets. And that's where we're kind of at right now. There will be continued regulatory changes. So people that are already in positions or not in positions are going to fight and lobby and do what they can to make their rules go into place. And then there'll be regulatory oversight, where are we looking at the small mom and pops building out brands? Are we looking at Joe Smo building out brands? Are we looking at multi-million-dollar brands? Are we looking at marketing individuals who are looking for now $100,000 job? Or are we looking for freelance marketing individuals who are looking for $5,000 jobs? You know, that's the scope of where we're at and what we're going to do. And with that, we have to learn by some of the mistakes that were done by the legacy and medicinal Wild West style legislative areas. So like when Cali was just starting up, there was a lot of branding that was bears and cartoons and women, and you know, that more stereotypical idea of the unsophisticated stoner. So packages with women with you know, and
joints hanging out of their mouth.
That just doesn't portray a culture the way alcohol portrays their culture. You know what I mean? Because you're not seeing Budweiser put on the front of its commercials, you know, somebody passing out or a car accident. You know what I mean? Some sloppiness. They're putting the beautiful pandas and, you know, bears and Christmas and Santa.
Everybody's
it's all great.
having
Budweiser,
fun around the pool, right? The great life. Corona on the beach.
You know, the big liquor companies aren't putting strippers and popping bottles on it. You know what I mean? Some of them have even spoken out to you remember when, what was it, Cristal told Jay-Z that they didn't want him representing his brand or something like that? And that's why he created like Ace of Spades. That's a huge marketing story right there. Who's representing your brand? So now in the cannabis space, who's representing your brand?
Yeah, look at all the stars with their brands, right? All the celebrities are getting in on brands now. But to answer your question, I agree with Lou. The fight is never over because the process is ongoing all the time. We do have the luxury here in Connecticut of being able to see what happened in other states. Even other states who did put in similar equity regulations to ours, like New York, like Illinois, like Michigan, and see what happened there and the ways that certain entities and certain groups tried to find ways around the laws, tried to get lobbying in there to change the laws that worked in their favor. We're going to have the same issue here. Because we know the players. The good thing here is in Connecticut, we've been dealing with these players for about 5 or 6 years now already. As a matter of fact, I would have to say they were as much as an adversary to us as the anti-cannabis people were. Wouldn't you say, Lou? They were, you know, as much as they said they were for legalization, they were for their legalization. And that was where the fight came in, where we had to really get in there and make sure that our side was covered. And we did. I think we did a very good job. Like Lou said, we had to make some compromises, but now the time is we have to like be watchdogs, unfortunately, because the legislative session is coming up. We've already been informed that they are going to try to make some changes to the regulations. We got to keep our eye on that, So,
and Joe, you're so right, because as those changes and those regulations come about, a big part of that is going to be the buying and selling of licenses. Every license in the state has been bought or sold in some way, right, Joe? And that goes at some point.
Oh yeah, Harry just sent me a link about Verano buying up the dispensary there in Waterbury and the other places. Yes, Connecticut started out as Connecticut-owned businesses or people who at least were connected to Connecticut. There were 4 growers and like 6 dispensaries. And through the years, through these large entities figuring out ways to get around the laws that they had put in, Connecticut is now, I can almost say, the medical industry is completely corporate, MSO owned. There are a couple that are still small corporations like Fine Federal, but for the most part, all the licenses have been sold. Am I correct, Lou?
You're correct. Out of the 4 cultivators, all those licenses have been bought and sold once or twice over. They set the market price to what a hybrid license might be. So when we talk business, the link that was shared was it's multi-million dollars, so we're talking, this is a large business, as a marketing or a branding company that works for a TheraPlant, AGL, or Curaleaf. It's a full-scale department with a large budget of at least $1 million a year. You know what I mean? Because of the swag, because of everything else that goes along with it. They have an in-house marketer. They have an in-house stylist for their items. They have an in-house, team that just handle these. We go and see them. They bring them all in. They sit them in the first office, and that's part of the tour. Oh, this is our in-house team. They do it. Here's a T-shirt. Here's a bag. They hand you all
the dispensaries look the same design, same everything. It's very like standardized. It's corporate. And if you go into a Curaleaf in Florida and you go into a Curaleaf in Connecticut, they're going to be looking similar.
And the crazy thing is,
branded that way.
Curaleaf was bought for $100 million. All right,
from a Connecticut company.
As an original Connecticut company, they were bought, and the brand was then established throughout the rest of the world. All right, because it was a completely different brand before they bought Connecticut. They sold that multi-international, multi-million-dollar company bought this little company in Connecticut solely because of their name.
Yep.
Because of their name. Branding.
They wanted the name. Yep.
Branding is huge. Yep. Companies will buy other companies just to take their name. Literally.
Not even caring what they're asking
just to take their name. We move into the space right now. I'm buying up crypto names. It's just they're domains that were websites that now are available on the meta space. And as brands, as individuals who are thinking in that space, we say, you know what? We might as well pick up that stuff now, because when that company decides to go around and do it, that's when the money will start flowing. Adidas bought that Bored Ape solely because they're going to use it in a commercial. So they bought a Bored Ape for $400,000. Now they never have to really hire an actor again. They'll digitize it and they'll use cartoon versions. They'll do a 3D version. They never have to hire an actor again, realistically.
In their own way.
A spokesperson. We're talking about AI influencers. We're talking, this is the next wave, an AI influencer crossing over from the meta space into the real world before it's even fathomable. Justin Bieber, Snoop Dogg, they're all doing concerts in the metaverse. This is crazy internet money. This is crazy internet.
Well, it has started to actually trickle into like regular society too. There was just a show on Fox about creating the next virtual star, where these people were going in with and having weird likenesses put up there. And these are people whose voices were incredible, but because in the music industry. It's a very shallow industry, much like every other entertainment industry. A lot of people get overlooked. A lot of people get overshined because they don't look a certain way, because they don't fit a certain mold. And like, I think everything that you're talking about has been going through business for years. You want to know how far back it actually goes, that goes beyond this. But I just watched Tommy Boy with my kids over the holiday break. And the big corporation just wants to buy the name of Callahan's and put their own stuff in there because their name, their brand was more valuable than their workers, than anything like that. And you start to see this happen. I knew in Connecticut it was about to be legal when they started to try to crack down on the home brewers and the small brewing companies that were making beer out here. When I saw that they were starting to try to crank in that industry, I knew what was coming for the cannabis industry, because if we can get it done in this spot, then we already have the law structure on the books and we can just put the names in there. And that's why, like you guys were saying, continuously being up on that fight, continuously being forward. You know, we are blessed to already have some of the groundwork from the prohibition of alcohol, from the tobacco industry, all of these different things that they've already made those mistakes, and you guys can learn and grow from there. Plus, on top of that, you have this outlaw culture. Like, hey, all you really need to do is, you know, get a cameo from Snoop Dogg and your company's about to blow up. You know, and that cameo is going to cost you maybe $300. You market that right, that's $1 million worth of advertising right there. You know, there's such these incredible opportunities. You know, one of my favorite musical entities of the entire world, the Bluez Brothers, have their own strain. They have their own farm.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to jumping out there, man. You know, and if you think we're talking about marketing, I have them on my arm. You know what I mean? Like, Easy Blues is for a reason, you know. And it's incredible to see and to grow. And I love that there is so much that we can learn from to grow forward. You know, it's stated, you know, I'm someone who used to watch behind the music and take notes from seeing what all the other people failed at. And we have those things with the alcohol companies, with the tobacco companies, where you have all this other stuff to learn from. You know, a wise man learns from his mistakes, but like, the genius can learn from the mistakes of others. Do you see, you know, are you guys penciling in from there? Are you seeing, you know, where you can kind of, I don't know, gleam the cube, to go back to the skateboarding reference?
I love it.
Yeah, I think part of what I think spurred me and Lou on to start this new venture, Greenhaven Media, was the fact that both of us look at the cannabis space from a larger viewpoint. So we see the things that are coming, the kind of brands that are coming in, the different spaces it's moving into, like crypto, like Lou said. But what isn't out there? There are some cannabis media outlets, don't get me wrong, but there isn't one that's really out there for new creators, for new people to come out and express themselves. A lot of them are also kind of whitewashed, you know, kind of like they're kind of, what am I trying to say? Surface. They don't go deep into the industry.
They claim the idea of counterculture, and this isn't a stab or jab or anybody at all. But the idea of counterculture at one point becomes the mainstream. We joke about it in the cannabis space. You know, High Times was once the name for counterculture.
Yeah.
Now it's just a corporate sellout brand. You know, so
they had to go out of business. I mean, that's how much the actual cannabis community lost faith in them. They don't even print a magazine.
Right. So it's a big part of that. So that's where we want to make sure that, hey, you know, as we create this space, we'll still continue to do our Cannabis Corner. We will then also just create an online space that content creators can actually put some stuff out, and ideally focus on the new creator, because as states come online, you know, the demographic isn't completely saturated. We have X amount. We have 19 legal states. That's another 30 ultimately. It's 31 other states that can come in. There's 31 other states of people that might want to get some information out that aren't already locked out through gridlock in the larger, you know, if just us on our cannabis content, you know, you guys invited us. If we were in California, we would be almost nobody you know what I mean? It's this, we'd be the new guy on the block. California is completely saturated by cannabis content creators. It's like,
Right.
who wants to listen to the Puerto Rican guy?
They want to listen to us on WNHHLP 103.5 FM.
Oh, you're good, bro.
And my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made EZ Bluez is in the building. I got the great people from Cannabis Corner with us on the show. Guys say the fight is not over. There's a lot of people who look like me, a lot of Black people who look like me, a lot of Latino people who are still in bars by selling marijuana and cannabis, and also just with all these wrongful convictions, and it has to get turned over. What are your thoughts on this, guys?
Well, that was one of the things we fought for. And in Connecticut, we did get concessions. They weren't exactly what we wanted. So we're hoping that at least that is like a door opener to get the process started. And yes, Preston, that is one of the things we are going to have to probably push them to move along, to get going and do. And that's in our state. You know, other states have done the same thing. I would like to see it be done federally. Maybe in the future, there are some bills in there that are, proposing that. And that's another part of the fight. You know what I mean? That's on the bigger picture. So yeah, it is. It's a question of making sure that they at least do what they said they were going to do. And then, we watch other states and they have expanded on their, expulsion programs once it got started. So it gives us hope that, okay, we got this bit. We didn't get exactly what we wanted. Let's get those people started to get their records expunged, get them released. And now then we're going to ask for more. And we're going to ask for a little bit more. You know what I mean?
We'll keep putting the chain, we just keep moving the chains down the field.
Yeah.
And, we did get we got some of the expulsion, and it gives the ability to start it, which is great for a large community here in Connecticut, especially the Black and brown community. The entire Latino community is a big part of that. And that's a big, big thing because, hey, a lot of our kids are the ones hustling, and I'm guilty of it. There's other advocates that are all guilty of it, being 15, 16 years old, couple bags in our pocket, get pulled over by a cop walking through or whatever. I was on the subway train a couple times, this is back in New York City, but the cop will pull you out. You got a couple bags in your pocket. Well, here's a ticket, or here's whatever they decided. It could be a full-blown arrest. It could have been throw the bag out, depending on what situation you're in. I've seen it go each and every way, depending on who the person is, and it's never consistent, and it's always up to whatever the predetermined thoughts of that police officer. You know what I mean? Right. So sometimes it's one of the cool cops that's like, listen, kid, throw that shit out and keep it moving. Like, I'm not going to ruin your life over it. But sometimes it might be one of the officers who's like, oh man, I'm going to ruin your life over these 2 little bags. And you're going to have to go to drug court, and your parents are going to have to pay $100,000 in restitution to the state. And now it puts you where you can't go to college because now you can't get through the FAFSA. Now your financial aid is in jeopardy. Now you have to fight to get this expunged from your record for what it could be 2 little baggies ultimately, where the individual could have also had the idea to say, you know what, we'll throw it out. Or it's us fighting for that legislation. You know what I mean? Because I've heard that happen to 30-year-olds, not just and this is where sometimes it can get skewed because yes, I'm from a more urban area that our youth are kind of pushed into that world, and we've kind of make those choices. And that's kind of the secondary to growing up in that area. Some communities don't start in that. I remember coming up to Connecticut, and I went to college up here. I went to University of New Haven. So big shout out to West Haven, Connecticut. That's where I went. And I was the only person from like my area of Brooklyn in my entire dorm room. And everybody was like, yo, you are wild. I was like, I don't know what you mean. They're like, well, you came up with like an ounce of weed and a 30 rack. And your parents were cool with that. I was like, he said, don't go out and get fucked up. Don't go out and get all messed up and stuff. So, and they're like, your parents are like, I don't want to know about it. So now you guys are driving around all messed up, and you're going into secret places to do all type of secret stuff. And mine just told me to stay inside and don't go out. You know, you still get in trouble either way because it's illegal. So I'm not advocating any of that, but you know,
now I understand by that answer you gave me, you really are the wild one. But
but it's so true because there is this incredible evolution, and you know, I grew up in a suburb of Long Island, but you know, and there were those certain type of those moments, and I remember being older and being like on break from work and driving around with my buddy in the car, and things are getting passed. It is what it is. And then all of a sudden, you know, the blue lights and the whoop whoop hits in the back, and it's like, ah, it's an undercover, and you're like, all right, it is what it is. The dude comes over and looks at both of us being grown men and literally says this, and this is the culture that was there. Oh, we thought you were younger. We were just gonna try to bust your guys' chops, we'll say, because we're on FM radio. And you know, it was just like that. Expect this harassment to come. And I was like, huh? You know, like, why are you being so civil if this is an issue? Like, I've seen people get thrown to the ground for it, and this dude was just like, oh, these guys were just cruising on lunch break. Go about your day. It's just very odd to see such a weird dichotomy because it has been something that, you know, I grew up with it. Like my mom and her friends, like it was just an everyday thing. And there were cops that were sitting at their table while they were playing Yahtzee and getting, you know, a little lifted. You know, so it never was at this point. And then in the same sentence, I was there when the DEA kicked in one of my mom's friend's doors and, you know, shot the pit bulls, you know, for a plant. For a plant.
That's traumatic.
I was 8.
That's traumatic.
You know, so it's been so weird, and now to see how from going and hiding in the woods, you know, 4 miles from the movie theater because you wanted to get a good buzz on to watch Shrek, to being like, I am now in this Target and All Star just came on over the thing. Should I pull my vape out? I'm not sure. Can I do that? You know, it's such a weird world that we now live in for someone that grew up on the other side of that. You know.
Well, can you imagine the 70s, smoking weed in the 70s? I started in the 70s, all right? So you really, really had to hide it. And I want to bring something up about the whole selective enforcement, okay? You know, I can't hide the color of my skin, right? And I know just from being arrested back in the 80s, the way they handled me, let's say, somebody like me, compared to the way they handled somebody who didn't look like me, was completely different. Okay. And I realized that. Now I had gotten pulled, like you say, got pulled over. Lucky for me, and maybe it was for that same reason, either I was a good talker, I never got put in cuffs till I was a little bit older. But you know, until I was in my 20s. But as a teenager, we used to get popped all the time with beer in our car, with weed, you know, and back, you know, I guess it was a small town. So a lot of times we got let go. They would take it. Now we knew what they were doing with it when they took it. And then they would almost do it with a smile on their face, like, ha ha, get the hell out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I did finally get my arrest, that's when I really saw where that stuff plays in. It really, really does. And a lot of that, seeing that, is why I have been such a big proponent of equity for that, because it shouldn't matter. You know, everybody should be treated equally. The law should be the same for everybody, regardless. I mean, a lot of the laws are unfair, yes, but now things have changed a little bit. But it's that whole selective enforcement, and that's what we, the law enforcement and us as a society, need to make up for, because it's real. It does happen. Definitely does happen. I saw it firsthand with my own eyes, and it really popped in my head.
No, it's mind blowing and it's earth shattering. And for all those that are playing at home, yes, those officers then took that stuff to my mom's Yahtzee game, and I sat around and they were all doing that wonderful stuff, you know. But it's the way that it goes, and like it becomes kind of mind blowing, and it becomes like these extra conversations that we continuously need to have, you know. And I love that you guys are so on point with the continuing to push, not only for the legislation from the business aspect of it, because like, let's be real, some of the best business people I've ever met in my entire life probably sold me weed. If we're being honest here, you know,
you gotta know how to run the structure, bro.
Yeah. Oh, and that's really what it comes down to, because you already have a business mind. You have to become business minded. You have to understand supply. You have to understand demand. You have to understand pricing. You have to understand your demographic. You have to then be smart about it so you don't get popped as well. So now you have the extra aspect on there as well. Take that and flip it over to the legal side of it. You know, you have your multimillionaires. You know, Jay-Z hitting Forbes came from the street culture of, you know, flipping and moving and all this kind of stuff. He took that structure and he put it into the legitimate business for it. Yeah. You know, and not just record, because he continues to diversify and he takes these negatives, like Cristal saying, hey, we don't want, you know, any thugging going around here. He's like, cool, I'm going to now create a brand that's going to compete with yours. And not only that, but I'm going to use the bad press you tried to throw on me to make millions of dollars. I think it's just incredible.
And those opportunities now exist in the cannabis industry. And I think people need to understand that this is a completely new industry. This is like getting in on the alcohol industry at the beginning. This is like being somebody post-prohibition in the 1920s. This is like somebody getting into the cigarette industry, you know, back then. That is the size that this industry is going to be. And that's not even including hemp. And Lou will tell you, and I will tell you, that hemp is the real is the real big deal, because its uses are beyond what I hate to, it's all cannabis, but let's just say the traditional, you know, marijuana is, you know what I mean? There's even more opportunities in the hemp in so many other industries. You know, you got the paper industry, the fuel industry, you got all kinds of the building industry. Luke can tell you more about that. So this whole sector could really change the planet.
You know, the cannabis sativa plant, which is all of it, has different cultivars, as we were talking. And that's where Joe was going into, more commoditized. The cannabis plant will completely become a commodity, where if it's for industry or agriculture or for feed, you'll be able to trade them as such. And then it would be just a separate commodity for actual smokable consumables for the THC realm ultimately. Average that this market, which we think is 100% of the market, would actually be about 20% of the full cannabis marketplace. Right. Import export's going to be a big part of it. The branding part, marketing, regulatory, that business, standard business acumen, one might say. And then the street knowledge, the regular
and the medicinal
part of it, you know, the medicinal is a whole nother part of it. So then you go, you know, commodities, hemp, particle board, hemp.
Lou,
you know.
we're about to get the Apollo curtain from Henry in a little bit, but I just want to give this last minute to you guys. I'm happy that you're promoting this show. I'm happy we're going to be a part of it for the next hour of WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. But just a little bit to you guys, just, you know, give out your social media, where people can find you and where people get more educated by you guys.
Awesome.
The platform is yours.
All right, we appreciate you. You can follow me at Hemp Farmer Lou on all the platforms. Follow our website, wepafarms.com. And a big introduction, you can reach out to Joe and our social media team. Joe, tell them about Green Haven.
We got our Instagram is at Green Haven Radio. We have a Facebook page, Green Haven Radio. We're going to be changing that to Green Haven Media, but for now it's Green Haven Radio. You can follow us. And right now, Cannabis Corner New Haven is pretty much our homepage for the show. And you can find us there, Cannabis Corner New Haven on Facebook. That's where we put a lot of the updates and links to the show and all that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Nice. But look out for Green Haven Radio coming in 2022. Green Haven Media coming in 2022. We'll see you in about a half hour, guys.
On WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven has been Behind the Brand. Thank you, guys.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just discount? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Spending time all alone, sending my songs through the phone, dreaming of a better home, while focused on trying to hone this craft, witchcraft. I hope the brujas let this last.